Hey, Dr. Tom Preston here, founder of Full Circle Coaching Consulting. Hello, community. This is the first of our coaching office hours, where Tuesdays, 1:30 Eastern, one of the coaches is going to be on here to answer any and all questions. So if you happen to be scrolling through Facebook and you pop into Dr. Tom's Live, pop in, say hi. I would be very happy to take a question from you or engage in dialogue. If you've got a question you'd like to have answered during this coaching time, just put it into the group itself, right? Just make a post, and we'll definitely get to it. So today's question is from Joe in Virginia. Let me read this to you. I feel like I'm too busy to put in the time to learn how to free up enough time to do anything else, right? This is a very classic problem of many of our new clients at Full Circle get. It sounds crazy, but I feel like if I take any time away from what I'm doing now, the whole business is going to crash, fall apart. How do you get off that hamster wheel and actually start working on the business? It's a great question, Joe, and thanks for asking. Again, as I said, to give you context, I've been at this coaching work for pretty much 3 decades as of this recording, and I can tell you that there's some version of this literally every client I've ever talked to, because we're busy as docs, right? We're busy. We're in the practice. We're working working with patients all the time, which is one of the things that most of us love. And then there's all of this other stuff that we could or should be doing, right? There's all of this administration, and there's marketing, and there's leadership stuff, and there's team development, and there's just a lot of stuff to do. And so we get on, literally, as Joe said, the hamster wheel, and we feel like we just literally don't know how to get off. But there's a saying we have at Full Circle that says, how you do anything is how you do everything. And I promise you, if you're letting the hamster wheel of your practice, get in the way of you working on the practice, not always in it. Let me say it again, working on versus in. And that distinction, working on versus in, is one of the biggest differences between Full Circle clients who absolutely, hit it out of the park and those that just do well, right? Because again, we're busy working in it, but it's that busyness all the time that stops us or slows us down or diminishes the possibility that we actually work on the business. To the degree you work on the business makes working in the business smoother. If you've got to operate from a place of trust or faith, Joe, then that's the first thing to do, is just trust somebody who's been in the career now for more than 35 years and coach consulting now for 30, thousands of clients across the world. The first distinction is to know that there's a value working on the business versus always in the business. So that's one distinction to make. Take it on trust for now if you don't believe it first, okay? So then how do you actually get off the hamster wheel? Well, let me tell you my story. When I was at the practice, I got 5 daughters, for those who don't know. When I was at the practice early on, I was worried about whether I was being a good dad. And then I was with the kids and I was worried about Mrs. Jones and Mrs. Fluffnick and everybody at the practice. I was literally lived in purgatory. I was nowhere. I lived in hell because I wasn't present time conscious with family. I wasn't present time conscious with the practice members. What I chose to do was to create a template of time. And this is your first action step, Joe, beyond just getting your mindset around the value of working on the business, not always in the business. Just take out a half an hour or so, or an hour, and create a rough template. Do it on paper if you have to. Create a rough template of how you would ideally love to use your time, right? And here's the counterintuitive thing. I didn't think I had time to make a template of time. How do you want to use my time? But I resisted it because I thought if I get too structured with my time, then I'm going to turn into a robot and I won't, enjoy my life and all of my intuitiveness will pass. That's not true. It's a counterintuitive, but exactly the opposite thing happened for me. I created a time template. We recommend you do it on 3 parameters. Work on who you're being or becoming as a human, as a doctor, as a care provider. Work on what you do, right? Which is what you do all the time. You play squash with your buddy on Thursday nights. You are in the practice adjusting from X to Y. And then have what you would love to have as a result of the fruits of your efforts. So it's who you're being, what you're doing, and what you're having. Just organize your time. Say, you know what? If I knew I could not fail, that's very important, Joe. If I knew I could not fail and time and money were no option, how would I want my ideal week to look like? Create an ideal week based upon being time, and we recommend you focus on 3 hours to start, 3 to 5. Eventually, some clients get to 8 or 10, but initially just 3 hours a week where you're working on the business. That's what that be time is. You're being someone that's working on a business, not in it. And then all of your do time, and then your have time. And I promise you, and if 3 hours just sounds like a lot, well, then just commit to 1 hour a week, right? Joe, just bite off a little chunk of that elephant to get started. This is the way to get off the hamster wheel. Living a life of intention, living a life of authenticity. We call that an authentic time structure because it's authentic to you. It'll be different than mine or different than anybody else's on the planet. And that's the whole idea. You want it to be unique and authentic for you. Start out with a small piece, get the mindset right, working on versus in the business, and then look at where you can structure your time, being time, doing time, and have time, and look for ideally 3 hours, but even if it's just 1 hour a week, operate on a place of trust or faith that by putting that effort in, you're actually going to get a bunch of return out. It's like you put an ounce of effort in, you get a pound of return. Versus when you're in the business, it's 1-to-1. You put an ounce in, you get an ounce out. Working on will give you leverage and scale. We've got entire training modules in this at Full Circle. If you'd like to talk more about that, for heaven's sakes, just reach out. Just put your DM me down in the notes here, or just reach out and just ask your question. Happy to answer these questions. Again, we're going to be here coaching office hours, community of the community of abundantly authentic chiropractors and their friends every Tuesday, 1:30 Eastern. This point forward, get your questions in, gang. We'd certainly love to hear from you. Dr. Tom signing off, helping you be more so you can do more and have more authentically in your ideal. Take care, everybody.